the music too soon.
My heroic
Wait,
pose.
should we do a redo? Play the music.
I know.
Go ahead.
I feel like we're about to go camping.
Oh, we should go Okay, they stopped the music.
Or fishing.
All of those things.
I ain't biting much today. I'm using a different kind of bait. I'm not going to do that whole... I'll commit to the bit normally, but not. What are you guys doing here on a Sunday? This is... Oh, shucks. Stated the obvious. How can I be of service?
Oh, how's your weekend been so far? Have you gotten to explore the city at all? Have you had any moments?
I did a little bit. It's weird. I have not been to New Orleans, NOLA. How many people are from here?
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. So large.
Okay.
He's pointing to you. He's like, this one is. This one over here says she is. It's been a while since I've been here, and a lot has changed since I was last here. Apparently, on Frenchman Street is the place to be.
Is it?
Didn't know that.
Okay.
It's always weird coming to a city like this because I feel like I don't get to see as much of it as I want to. I see a lot of the airport, I see a lot of the hotel, I see a lot of the convention center, and then I leave. But it's been beautiful, man. I forgot how much I miss beignets.
Yes, and everyone this weekend, that's been the thing I'm asking, where's the place to go?
Well, there's Cafe Beignet.
Right.
That's on Canal Street with the line out the door.
I hear that
Cafe
one
Dumont.
too.
Sorry, okay.
No,
Cafe
but
Dumont.
and Cafe Beignets. Yeah.
But there's New Orleans feels like Paris and Miami had a torrid love affair. You know what I mean? It's like, make it French, but make it swampy. That's what New Orleans always feels like to me.
A tale as old as time, of course.
Tale as old as time.
Well, thank you for being here this weekend. So I kind of wanted to ask, what were some of your fandoms growing up? What were you into?
Some of my fandoms?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Before there was anime, there was just the cartoons that I watched. And so I would, come home every day and I would watch Robotech or Speed Racer or any of the things that, were no one, really. They're like, thank you, okay. Robotech was my thing. I thought that I was Rick Hunter and Minmay was super hot to me. Okay. And I had no idea that this was something that was produced in another language and then, translated for this. And I grew up G1 Transformers era, G.I. Joe. So those were the things that I was super into. And then when I was, at that point, you gotta understand, in the 80s, Star Wars was not the thing. It was something that had come out years before. And so by the time that, Jedi rolled around, it was, 82. And at that point, my real entry point was Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones. That was the first movie that I saw in the movie theater. So that was my big fandom was stuff that was more related towards that. It wasn't really until 99, I guess a little bit with Clone Wars started kicking up again. It was oh yeah, Star Wars was awesome. But I had a Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi, but that wasn't a collector's item at all. It wasn't a fandom thing. It was Star Wars. It came out. It wasn't really until something that was much later to where it was Star Wars in every place you can possibly breathe. So yeah, those were my fandoms, I guess.
I love it. And the crossover, Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
Ta-da!
Slay. Love it. What about video games?
Oh my God. So I was just talking to someone about this. I had zero money growing up. So I had friends that had the consoles. So my first console, I always had a computer in my house because my dad was into computers. And I had a Commodore 64. And my friend across the street had an Atari 1600, and then with the wood grain with the switch top. No one knows what I'm talking about. Okay, I've heard about them before. Thank you very much. And then later in the 80s, 85, 86, I had a friend of mine across the street. He had the Nintendo, and then my other buddy had the Sega Genesis. And so I would go over to their house and play as much as I could, or watch, and then get kicked out before dinner because they're not going to feed me. And I would go home and then remember what those games were like, and I would play on my dad's 5.5-inch floppies or 5.25 floppies, as much as I could. And then my main platform growing up was the arcade, because my parents may not have all the money to buy a Nintendo or a Sega, but they did have $5 to give me on a Saturday so that the arcade could be my babysitter, and they just crossed their fingers and hoped I didn't get kidnapped. And so I would have $5 to sustain me until my parents showed back up in the parking lot at whatever hour in the afternoon. And so I don't know if you've ever known this. Like I have, I'm doing a lot of vicarious living through my son right now, who's 7, and I bought like old. I wanted a Golden Tee cabinet, and so I got one of those, like the original Golden Tee, not like the one-up version, but the original Golden Tee. And then I have a God machine that has like 7,500 games on it or whatever. And we went to a friend's birthday party last weekend, and they were like, well, all of the arcade games operate on quarters. And I was like, that has been a minute for me. And I had $10 on me and in cash. And I went in, and that sound, when you put $10 into a change machine and the quarters come pouring out, I was like, I'm the richest man in the world. And I remember what it felt like to take all those quarters and just put them in your pocket, and you sound like a garbage truck when you walked. And I was like, anything is possible. I can do anything. And so obviously these machines are set up to be free play. I'm like, no, I don't want to deprive my son of knowing what it feels like to be on that final boss, on your final guy, on your final quarter, and lose. And I want him to know what that's like, because he can know the joy that comes from being on the final boss, on your final guy, when you have toothpick energy and you're on your final quarter and you beat him. I think that's something that we're missing right now. There's this kind of new habit, new ritual that we're starting at our house, to where Traveler comes home. That's my son's name. Traveler comes home from school or whatever he's doing, and it's like, dude, chill. I want you to just relax and take your time to do anything. We'll play Breath of the Wild, or he'll draw, or he'll do whatever. And then we have dinner together, and we all sit and talk, no screens. And then from that moment forward, somebody picks an album. Like my wife picked Nick Drake's Pink Moon. And we put on an album, and we have until that album is done, and then it's bedtime. And that 44 minutes has really changed our entire relationship with evenings, with our screens, with music, and with what we do with ourselves. And I think that there's something that we're missing between knowing what it feels like to put a quarter into a slot and put a needle down on a record player. Because there's a relationship you have to have with that thing, and there's a little bit of hope that goes into it. And there's a different kind of way that you play a game when you don't just have to press start or continue or resume. There's something about it, like an ephemeral nature to playing something and going, I gotta beat him. I have to do it this time. And I would encourage everybody, if it's been a while since you've been to an arcade, you really should do it. I'm not talking about Dave & Buster's where you go load up a credit card. I'm talking about go somewhere where you got to put a quarter in and feel what it feels like when you're on, I don't know, Mortal Kombat and Goro's just whooping your ass and you got to put that final quarter in. There's just something about that. And then even if you don't have a record player, which obviously the best way is get a record player, put an album on. Go to Spotify and just play an album. Not play a playlist or an artist, an album. Choose an album. And do this with your partner. Do this with your family. And sit down and just listen to that album and see how much your relationship with time, music, and the things that you're experiencing really, really shifts. We could slow down a little bit. You know what I mean? What was your question?
Yep, you answered it. It's about video games. But now I have to know, what was the most recent album that you picked?
I wanted to introduce my son to Jeff Buckley's Grace, which is a great one. We also did, and this is going to be, I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this, Coldplay's Parachutes. Sorry, it's a banger of an album. It's so good. I asked... it's also a great thing to ask people, like, what would the album choose? What album would you choose? And like John DiMaggio was like, you got to do Elton John's, not Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, but do Captain Fantastic. It's like a really offbeat, and it's the one that came before, or it's the one that came after. So to me, it's about finding those. What was the other one that we just did? Oh, this was a great night. We did OK Computer.
That's a.
Oh my God, it was a great night. We sat there and played. I swear to God, it's like we were like the grandparent. We're playing gin rummy at the kitchen table listening to OK Computer. That's about as like boomer as you can get.
But what a great album.
It is a great album. And our son's jamming along with us. He's just like, who is this? I'm like, that is Radiohead.
And that's a cool kid right there.
That's
too.
a cool kid right there. It's like it's one thing for, who has kids? Boom, boom, boom. We're cool when we put them in the Guns N' Roses t-shirt because, we want to project this image of our kid that they're cooler than they really are because they have no idea who Guns N' Roses is. Unless you go, hey, this is Appetite for Destruction, and in 1988, this all blew our minds. Like, do that for them as well. And like, I never got exposed to those things. I'm catching up to them. I mean, listen, Appetite for Destruction, I got grounded for it. But who's raised in church? I'm okay. I almost felt like really, really isolated there for a second. There you go. You're still a little traumatized, aren't you? You're like, who's looking? What's the follow-up question? I didn't grow up listening to all the things that everybody else was listening to. I wasn't allowed to listen to that. What do I want? Satan to live in my heart that night? I got Stryper. I got Petra. I got all of the bands that nobody else at my school knew. And I was like, I can tell you everything about this band. And we're like, we don't care because you have no idea who Warrant is. And neither do you.
No, Warrant's great.
Warrant is great?
I like Warrant.
Okay, good. Huh? She's my cherry. Yeah, Cherry Pie. Yes, that album is. Uncle Tom's Cabin is a better song, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Just lyrically, musician. Because really, the point of the song is. I'm playing. I'm not gonna do that. Go ahead. You were saying something.
Oh, I was gonna say the last album I think I listened to start to finish was Pet Sounds from Beach Boys. So good, right?
That is one of the albums where I tell someone if you've never sat down and listened to that. By the way, late great Brian Wilson. If you view, do you know the story of that album? Like, Beach Boys go, okay, we're going to go off on tour, and Brian Wilson goes, bye. What are you going to do? I'm just going to stay at home. Like, no, we're going out on tour. He goes, no, I'm staying. I was like, what are you going to do? And while the Beach Boys went off and went on tour, he stayed behind in a back room at Cello Studios, which is now East West on Sunset Boulevard, and he made Pet Sounds. And that's arguably, Paul McCartney says that's the greatest album that's ever been recorded. If you've never sat down, I'm not talking about putting it on and doing it. Sit down in a chair, put on headphones, listen to that thing on vinyl. And the reason, I'm not trying to be cool here, there's a relationship that we've lost with music as far as like, you have to actively start the record and then listen to it and then wait for that needle to cross over to the other side till you hear that thump, pick the needle up, flip the record over, and start it again. It is a relationship that we're supposed to have with art that we've lost how to do it. We just push a button and it just somehow magically plays throughout your entire house. There is something about sitting and listening to that. And if you listen to Pet Sounds through the lens of, we have this great Netflix show, Love on the Spectrum. 100% Brian Wilson was on the spectrum to a level that I think Jacob Collier is the only other person that I think could aspire to be that level. Brian Wilson was just tapped into something that, like, he could smell colors. You know what I mean? Like, there was just something that he could hear and see and feel with music that nobody else was, and he was trying to express that. But if you listen to Pet Sounds through the lens of, this is love as experienced by someone on the spectrum, wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Then we wouldn't have to wait so long. That is a very spectrum statement. You know what I mean? He just views things from a different level. It is an amazing record. Dark Side of the Moon, same thing. Holy God. Listen to that thing the way that it was intended, which is with headphones and quadrophenia. It is beautiful. There's so many great albums that are being made right now. You thought I was going to talk about The Last of Us, didn't you? So you just droned on about music for a while. That's my first love. And I'm always trying to find a way to come back to my first love. I love it. It's a wonderful mistress that I find myself constantly being drawn back to. But I had an anthropologist who's incredible. Her name is Alice. Alice Roberts, Professor Alice Roberts. And she said we were singing before we were speaking. Speaking is actually a reduced form of communication because there's more information that's conveyed in singing than there is just in speaking. You can probably tell where someone is from if they have an accent. So there's some level of information. But for the most part, we kind of pretty much kind of stay here. I have a tendency to be a little bit more dynamic in the way that I speak. But for the most fact, it's pretty one-dimensional. But if you think about someone singing, now there's the length of the vowel, there's the notes that they're hitting, there's the timbre of their voice, there's all this information that's being conveyed in singing. And we were singing before we spoke. So returning to music to me is like returning to our primal roots.
Well, I was also going to say, no matter what we're here for or what projects we want to talk about, I think something that we can all agree on is we like seeing someone talk about things passionately, right?
Agreed.
And I think your passion definitely shows, so I think that's amazing.
Indeed. Cool.
Do we want to throw it to the audience? Let's see
Hell
what kind of
yeah.
questions you guys got, and then we'll see what goes from there. What's your name first? What's your name? Huh?
My first anime role, I was conned into it by one Christopher Sabat. And Sabat has been the gateway drug for a lot of actors who did anime. And he said, I want you to play the main bad guy in this show called Case Closed. I was like, oh, awesome. And he was like, yeah, you set the whole thing up, and you're really the reason why this guy becomes who he is. You're going to be very tied to the hero. I'm like, awesome. I walked in, and I said, sweet dreams, detective, and you never saw me again. And I was like, I'm on a show. No, you're in an episode, and that is it. But it got my foot in the door with Funimation, and then from that role, that was pretty insignificant and a huge franchise. Do you know that movie opened up bigger than I think Mission Impossible did in China? I think that was the thing that I saw on the internet. But Case Closed is like a huge franchise. And I got to have a little sliver of a part of it. And then from that came, opportunities to be in Full Metal Alchemist. And then from that came, Trinity Blood, and there were all these other animes that I was able to be a part of. And honestly, it's a form of acting that I think everybody should do, because especially if you want to do TV or film and you have to do any kind of ADR, dude, I know actors that they're like, we have 4 hours set aside from you. How many lines of ADR do I have? You have 3. And that's going to take them that much time to just get a good performance. And you get someone who's done a lot of anime and like, I'm going to be in and out in 3 minutes. I know how to do it. I know how to infuse the emotion and the intention in this line within the mechanics and the parameters that you're giving me. So most recently, the last thing that I did, it was an anime, was Baki, which was a lot of fun. Nobody watched it. It's on Netflix. It's good. Thank you.
Great question.
What you got, homie?
How long does a recording session take for a larger role?
I mean, dude, it really depends. I've been working with Ken Levine on this project, Judas, for 10 years. You talk to the people that did Baldur's Gate. They were on that for 5 years. They ran, I think it was 3 stages for 5 years or 5 stages for 3 years. Multiple stages. It really just depends on the project. The main point of it is, especially in a game, making games is hard. We shot The Last of Us for 2.5 years. We shot Part 2 for almost 3 years. There's been projects that I've been on, again, for 10 years or 4 years or 5 years. Indiana Jones took 3 years. And it's this, a TV or film, most shows, you'll probably shoot anywhere from 6-day episodes, meaning that you go in and you shoot that episode out in 6 days, or you go to The Last of Us on HBO, which was a 30-day episode, meaning they shot each episode in 30 days, which is just the jacuzzi schedule of production. Or you can find like a film that's going to take anywhere from 18 days for an independent all the way up to 3 months for something like Christopher Nolan's been shooting The Odyssey for like 6 months or something like that. It's crazy. But nobody can touch the level of development that it takes to make a game. It's just massive because you're not just shooting a movie, you're also, this is what's funny, I was talking to my buddy Travis William about this, and he goes, why does it take so long? Why is it so hard? I said, give me a scenario. He goes, all right, your party goes into a warehouse and their job is to steal these cars from these people. It's like, okay, great. are these cars that they're actually going to drive? And he goes, yeah, let's say they are. I was like, okay, are these cars also going to be cars that other people can drive too? And he goes, and I started just one by one asking all these questions that fundamentally made his idea broken and unshippable. And it's because in a game, your choices and how you interact with the environment determine everything. And so many times on set, this even happened just a few weeks ago, we're on set, and I was like, what about this? And you get this answer, we don't know yet. And it's literally, you are laying the planks of the bridge as you are crossing the chasm. That's how games are made. So, the next time you play a game, be kind. There's anywhere from Expedition 33 people and a dog made that game, and that's amazing. For a budget that was so small, it would blow your mind. And what they were able to achieve was incredible. But for every Clair Obscura Expedition 33, there's a lot of games that come out on Steam that you never even hear about. So be kind, because there's somebody that spent, either one person all the way up to 500 people, that spent years of their life. And every day they went to work with one goal, is to make the best version of that game possible. Sometimes they hit the mark, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they blow past it. But it's still the same amount of effort went into it. So be kind. It's really easy to get on Metacritic and go, I found this derivative of the... Come on. Well, it didn't satisfy my expectations. It's easy to do that. It's really hard to go, they did the best they could. They did the best they could. And hopefully the next game that they make is better than the one that they made this time. That answer your question at all?
That actually answered a different question. I was thinking like how long in a day you would take to record yourself.
4 to 8 hours.
Perfect. Brilliant.
4 to 8, not 48 hours. I don't have 48 hours in my day.
Oh.
I have 48 hours in my day. That's what I do. From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., that's one day. You seen that guy? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Blessed. What's
How
your
may I
name?
help you?
I have a Last of Us question, actually. It is my all-time favorite game, so I'm very excited that you're here. I wanted to know if playing the role of Joel affected you personally in any way.
You're trying to make me cry.
Yeah.
Deeply. In different ways. Like the first... Man, there's nothing worse, and I hope no one ever feels this. Maybe you haven't, and it has nothing to do with like being on a set or anything else. You ever like show up to something and go, I am so woefully unprepared for this. And it's not imposter syndrome, it's a fact. You are not equipped to do the thing that you're about to do. You could be like, let's go bungee jumping, and you get on the platform, you're like, I can't do this. Like, my body physically will not allow me to do this. That was The Last of Us for me. Aww. You get the gig, and then you go, oh no, I have to deliver this. And I'll never forget when Ashley and I, they first walked us through the story. At the time I smoked, and I walked outside, and let's take a break. About an hour-long pitch that they gave us for what this thing, at the time was called T1, was going to be. And we walked out, and I was here and Ashley was next to me. We're just kind of staring out across this soundstage, or the studio lot, which where they shot Wizard of Oz. And I go, do you realize that if this thing sucks, it's our fault? Because we knew that what they were going to make was going to be good. At that time, Uncharted was already a huge success. And they knew what story they wanted to make, and they were just going, it's all on you when we get on the stage. And so it taught me how to be a better actor. It taught me how to stop trying to convince people that I could act and just realize that Joel has no idea he's in a game. And he's just in a moment in his life. And I took that lesson and I apply it all the way across. So whenever a director or a writer comes to me and goes like, at this point in the game, the character's like, they don't know they're in a game. So tell me why I'm doing this. That's one of the lessons that I taught. It also taught me the extent that a father will go to not only love, but to grieve. And for me, it was a character, and it was a role, and it was an opportunity. But for Neil Druckmann, it was very much of a thought experiment. His daughter had just been born, and he wrote this. And he had wrote a version of this when he was in college, or maybe even high school. And he wrote this story because he looked at his daughter and he goes, what do I look like in the event that something happens to her? And that's where you get The Last of Us. So yeah, even to this day, and I'm not being glib when I say that one of the reasons why I like coming to these conventions is to have these conversations with people and hear how it has impacted their lives and the stories that they have and how this has changed them, and the community that's been found because of it. Not just because of the game, but now because of the show. And there's, we got to do the kind of Game of Thrones going, well, did you play the game? And it's a really fun thing to sit back and watch. We had no idea it was going to be this. We knew it was going to be great, but we didn't know it was going to be phenomenal like this. And truly a phenom. So yeah, it to this day, it teaches me something new.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
you did
you.
a wonderful job, even if you didn't feel like you were supposed to be there initially. So I couldn't imagine anyone else as Joel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You never, you're only ready when you need to be. You know what I mean? I can't do this. Well, not until you need to. You don't know that you can jump until you do. So don't be fearless. Be fearless. What you got?
I'm sorry for the whiplash of this question. It relates to a specific role of yours, but a personal opinion.
Go.
What is your favorite type of pizza?
How did I know this was coming? You gonna ask about pineapple? I'll tell you what to do with that pineapple. Is that it? My favorite kind of pizza?
Favorite kind of pizza?
My favorite kind of pizza,
topping,
it's not
anything.
fair. Because we moved into this house, and the original builders had built this brick oven, pizza oven in the back. And it was just a thing that was in our backyard. And a friend ever comes over, and he goes, that a pizza oven? I was like, yeah. He goes, do you use it? No. Do you mind if I do? Sure. So we had someone clean it out, because it was just like, we had to evict the spiders that were apparently living there. And he makes the most amazing pizzas. And it's like, I realized that's why they had an apple tree next to the pizza oven, so that you get apple wood, smoked apple wood. And so he makes the fire, and then he takes little pieces of apple wood and throws it in, and you're like, oh, I can taste the apple. That's a thing. I thought it was just something. No, you take apple wood and you put it in there. So my favorite that he makes is like this kind of like a meat lovers, but it also has jalapenos and hot honey. I'm thinking about it right now. But he gets his flour from Italy and all of his ingredients from this like bodega that's not far from ours. So it's like you can eat 20 of them and not feel like, oh God, I made a huge mistake. So that's my favorite pizza. That's not fair.
May I ask a slight addition to that as well?
Okay.
Do you think Higgs would like pineapple on pizza?
Absolutely he would. I love Higgs. It's so fun. Who's played Death Stranding? Okay, 2 people, 3 people. Moving on to the next one. Thank you very, very much. How about you, homie? What you got?
My name's Caleb. First, I'd like to say that I hear your power is mine in my nightmares. But my question was, how did it feel to play one of the most iconic villains in one of the biggest anime series of all time as Pain?
Oh, man. Naruto is just like a runaway hit. And Mary Elizabeth McGlynn was the director on that. And again, I have no idea that it's going to be this iconic. Every actor hopes and prays that they get the kind of dialogue that I got. And here's the truth. So much of that, oh, I love the speech I love this line. I appreciate when you guys give me compliments. But the old adage is true in this form as much as it is in anything else. If it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. And I want the writers to get the credit for this, because they're not just translating word for word from Japanese into English. That doesn't work. You have to translate the intention and the thought, and then be able to take that and make it fit within a finite amount of flaps. That is a mechanical magic. I don't know how they do it. So when you get those who don't understand true pain will never understand true peace. Like, that's an incredible writer. And then the cycle of hatred speech is just like, how do you do that? So Pain doesn't know that he's an iconic villain He doesn't know that he's in a runaway hit anime. All he knows is that he has a lot of pain, and he's very similar to Joker, in the sense that I can look at. I made a comment offhandedly in an interview once, and people just blew up over it. But I've never played a villain. I have never in my entire career played a villain ever. People are like, "This is the guy who played the Joker." I'm like, "Yeah, I played the Joker. Joker's not a villain. 100% not a villain from his perspective." You flip it around, and he's the hero. And he's constantly trying to save Batman from his madness. Constantly. Proof of that is the Tunnel of Love monologue and the Killing Joke. He's telling him, look, memories can be vile. And here's the emergency exit. All you got to do is just give up. And from that perspective, he's the hero. Pain is looking at Naruto going, do you really want to go full Ninetales? Because I'll show you what it looks like. That's the purpose that he serves, that he's an antagonist for sure. But when he suffers the trauma that he suffers, he goes, oh, here's how I deal with this, and here's how everybody should deal with this. That is a hero. So for me, I look at it and I go, I showed up and I did the job. And the work that was put in front of me was a task. And not only am I trying to serve the story, but I'm also trying to serve the engineer and the director and everybody else that's in production and the actor that's coming in behind me. So I have to do all of those things. But fortunately, I had the tools of great writing, great visuals, and a great audience that was going to fill in the gaps where I fell short to be able to create the iconic character.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
We got about 10 minutes left.
Copy that. Go for it.
Hi.
Blue, next.
Okay. First of all, I want to apologize for intensely staring. I'm not great with things like that.
Sweet.
But
No worries.
I just want to show I'm paying attention. Anyways,
Are you cosplaying as Balatro, by the way?
No, Ashura from Soul Eater, which is actually
Dang
going to
it.
relate to my question.
Okay, go for it. Fool.
Yes, I was going to ask, what's it like playing such a silly character like Excalibur compared to a bunch of your previous roles?
I was constantly trying to convince them to cast somebody else because I didn't think it was funny enough. And they're like, you don't have to be funny. Just play it straight. And it was just constantly, I'm not going to sing the song. I'm not going to sing the song.
Fair enough.
But it was Soul Eater to me. Soul Eater and Shin-Chan to me are the only two animes that have made me laugh out loud because I think they were hilarious. And a lot of that comes to the credit of not only the writers but also the director, Zach, who just kind of understood and got the humor. That was one of those where you're like, I'm just going to walk this straight line and let everything else be chaos around me. And with Darkstar and everybody else, you just do that. But it was the most off-the-wall writing, and the character to this day, when someone walks up and goes, I'm like, I know you're going with this. It's great. I'm glad that I got to be a part of that because it's hilarious.
Fool.
Fool.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nick.
Hi, Nick.
I wanted to ask, because I just recently started playing through Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and for starters, I completely blanked that you played him until
That means I did my job.
Until I looked at the voice credits. I was like, oh, that's right, that's him. Did you feel any pressure of playing an iconic role like Indiana Jones?
Dude.
Especially since now we know about your connection with Harrison Ford, watching him with Star
Happy
Wars and
birthday
everything.
to him, 83 today.
Oh, yeah. That's
Here's one of my favorite stories. So I went through a bunch of hurdles and had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get that role. I actually originally said no to it. The director called me and goes, I like you for this role. And I was like, are you wanting Harrison Ford? And they was like, we want 1981 Harrison Ford. I was like, great. I'm going to give you two names. You're going to call one of the two of them, and they're going to get you solved. And he goes, okay, I like you for this role. I said, tell you what, I'll put myself on tape. If you think it's good, send it on to the producers. But if it's not, do us both a favor and burn the tape. And I sent it, he sent it on, and I got the gig. And I went and I got whip training lessons, which is not something you want to go searching on Craigslist for. Got a lot of weird inquiries. Actually, Doc Duhame is a person who actually worked with Harrison Ford on one of the movies. He's actually the person that trained me. Pointless, I never actually got to use the whip. And I asked, why not? And they said, because that's fun to do. And if it's fun to do, we want the player to do it. And I was like, Good point. And I would wake up every morning and I would watch Raiders, and I would go to set and I would listen to John Williams' score, and I would get ready and I would go to set and I would come for lunch and I would sequester myself and I would watch either the rest of Raiders, I would go to Temple, and then I would fall asleep watching Last Crusade. I would rinse and I would repeat, and I was just constantly inundating myself within that world, within that character, his manner of speech, and I was breaking everything down with how he moved and the finger wag and all of that. And we found myself on set one day, and I asked a question about why we were doing this, and I got, "We don't know." And I said, well, this is something that should have been figured out before now. You know, just a super helpful thing to say. And I felt all of the air go out of the room, and the director said, well, that's not helpful. And it was a Friday. I leave set, I go back to the hotel. I walk into the hotel, and there waiting in the hotel lobby bar was Tony Todd. And Tony just turned back and looked at me, and he goes, "T, let me buy you a drink." And I said, okay, and I set my backpack down, and that was about 6:15 p.m. on Friday. At about 1:30 in the morning, they're telling us no more. And we got wonderfully drunk together. And I spent the entire weekend nursing a hangover, showed up on work Monday morning, and I was ready to apologize to the entire cast and crew, and Tom Keegan, our director, met me at the door, and he goes, "Just trust it'll be there." And that's the one thing that, after all my preparation, that I hadn't thought about, is just trust that it'll be there. And I thought about this one line that Indy says where he goes, "I'm making this up as I go." And that's Indiana Jones. He's not prepared. He's not studying. He's brilliant, and he counts on all of the knowledge that he has beforehand to help him meet the task that is at hand. And that's Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford doesn't wake up and go, "Okay, remember, you're Indiana Jones." Indiana Jones doesn't wake up and go, "Okay, remember, you're Indiana Jones." He just is. And that's what I forgot to do. And the second that I started doing that, that's when I became Indiana Jones.
I also have one more question. If
We
that's...
got a couple minutes left, so it's
Go.
up to you. If you want, yeah.
Is there any character in pop culture, whether that be video games or anime, that you have always wanted to voice?
I say this with full respect to Charlie Cox, because I think he's absolutely changed the role and he's an amazing Daredevil. I either want to do Daredevil in a game, or I want to direct Charlie in a game to do Daredevil, mainly because I just want to see Daredevil the game. You know what I mean? Not Marvel versus Capcom. I want to see Daredevil in a game, because we play games because that character can do something that we can't. What does a game look like when we can do something that the character can't? And I think that would be a brilliant premise for a game. And if I ever got the opportunity to work with Charlie and do that in some capacity, that's one of the top career goals that I have. Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
I could do this. Hey, nice
You got
shirt.
this, yeah.
Thank you, sir. My question for you is, with all the DC characters that you've masterfully played throughout the years, my question
Masterfully.
for you is, were there any comics that inspired the way that you played your characters, or not really?
Absolutely. It really helps when you're doing like Long Halloween to be inspired by that. Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Batman. That's going to inspire that. I always try to go to the source material, because everything's going to be different, right? If you're doing like 66 Batman, that's going to be, you're going to go Adam West. You know, that's what Lego Batman really is Adam West and Michael Keaton kind of together with a little bit of Bale trickled in every once in a while. But if I'm doing something that's going to be more in the Arkham universe, I love Arkham Asylum as a graphic novel. The Death of Batman is one of my favorite seminal comics that I ever read. Killing Joke to me is still just one of the greatest pieces of literature ever written and drawn. So yeah, I think it's important to always go back to the source material. So I really do get inspired by that.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, brother. We got time? We can do this.
Oh yeah, we got 5 minutes. We're perfect.
Sweet.
All right. As you went to detail earlier, my name's Chris, by the way.
Thanks, man.
You're really connected with music, and I was wondering if you ever used your connection with music, try to write a song for a game that you've been in, or you want to write songs for games?
It's funny because Ken Levine didn't realize what he kicked off in Bioshock Infinite, where he's like, hey, I have this idea where Booker's going to play guitar. And then everybody else got that idea. I was like, well, it's funny because the connection with music with Booker, which was him trying to connect with Elizabeth. She starts singing, he picks up the guitar. Which is a completely, you could not do that in the game. It wasn't like a scripted event. It's like, if you go down the stairs, if you go into this room, and you pick up the guitar, this thing will happen. Otherwise, it never happens. But the reason why Joel plays music is because on set one day, Neil asked me and Ashley, what would you have been if you weren't an actor? And I said, I wanted to be a singer. I was going to be a musician. And he looked at Ashley and goes, what about you? And she goes, astronaut. Well, yeah, that tracks. And so that's why Joel plays guitar, sings, and that's why Ellie loves space. So he infused those small things about us into the characters, and it became a part of their DNA. And then you get Higgs. The reason why Higgs sings and plays music, I didn't know this until after we finished the game. We're at the Game Awards, and Hideo comes up to me and says, do you know why Higgs plays guitar and sings? I was like, no. He goes, because I watched you in the pandemic on one of your Instagram streams, and you played music, and it really moved me, and it touched me, and I was like, Higgs is going to sing. And I was like, why didn't you tell me this while we were filming? And it was a really beautiful thing that he did. So I am constantly trying to find ways for my mistress and my marriage to cross over somehow.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, man.
All right, final 2 questions.
What you
What's
got?
your name?
What was it like to work with Hideo Kojima?
Dude, he's like a Brian Wilson. Like he's operating on a different level. The guy has a passion for storytelling and game making that is laudable and rare. He's fearless, and he'll just go for it. If he has an idea, he's one of the most spontaneous creators that I've ever seen. He's just someone that is, I'm going to do that, and everybody else around you just make this happen. He's trusting. He sets us up. He gives us as much resources as we possibly can handle or need, and then he goes, okay, over to you. A lot of times you'll get 1, maybe 2 takes. And we're shooting that scene that you've seen in the trailer where I came out and it goes, Sam the man. And I said, the line is, same as it ever was. And I can't say those words without thinking of Talking Heads. And so I went, same as it ever was. And I'm like, we're just walking through it. This isn't going to be the take. And he goes, hi, Kato. I was like, okay, we're moving. I goes, that's it. I went, no. I was like, I'm telling you right now, let me help you out. Legal is going to push back on me doing that because I can't do Talking Heads. And it's in the game. So he is someone who trusts you to make your choice and trusts that you gave your best every time. And he's very much like Clint Eastwood in that fact. It's like, I'm going to give you one shot. It better be the best one. That's the kind of filmmaker he is. That's the kind of game maker that he is.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Shout out to David Byrne, right?
The Irish shout out, bro, for real. And the last one.
Lou, for like original characters like Joel, how do you create those voices for them?
I never thought about what does Joel sound like. You don't do that. How old are you?
21.
21. Where are you from?
Metairie, Louisiana.
Okay, so you're born in Louisiana.
Yes, sir.
You sound like you sound because that's where you grew up, that's how old you are. Same thing with Joel. If I sit here and there's a lot of characters that do this, that are actors that go, I work from the outside in. For me, it's like, well, you hired me, so you're never going to see me do, people are like, you're great in every role. I was like, because I got the job. If I got the job, I'm probably going to, at some level, be good in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten the job. So you've only seen me do what I can do. You've never seen me do what I can't. And that's dance. You'll never see me dance in a game because I can't dance. So Joel sounds the way that he does because I grew up in Texas, and there was just something about him that the second that I stepped into it, and that's what I just sound like. That's the kind of person you're going to deal with. And that was it. Indiana Jones is one of the only... Mark Hamill, to me, is the Joker. So that's the voice that I always heard when I listened or watched, read the comics, and then I would rush home every day to watch Batman the Animated Series, and I had Cesar Romero from '66 Batman, but But Mark Hamill's Joker was like, that's it. That's the guy. Same thing with Kevin Conroy. Kevin was not only the best Batman, but also the best Bruce Wayne. The most believable between the two. Roger's a great second. So I didn't know that I could do Mark Hamill's Joker until I tried, but I was having to hit those marks. With Harrison Ford, I had to work real hard to get that. And I was like trying to find out how I could fit there. But with Joel, it was like, this is just who he is. And it's either going to match or it's not going to match. But I know a lot of people that went in for that role. And Jeffrey Pierce included, by the way, who ended up playing Tommy. And if you want to talk about any man who has a heart of gold, it's Jeff, because he was second in position to play Joel. And they said, we need you to play Tommy. He goes, you got my hand, you got my sword. And that's like the kind of person that he is. So that's me. That's what I do. That's how I found the voice.
Thank you.
Awesome. So,
We're
if
out
it's
of
okay
time.
with you,
Yes.
we're gonna take a big group picture with everybody.
Oh, cool.
Is that all right?
Absolutely.